Welcome to the Sharpest College Football Podcast. This is week one in review. This is BuckMetrics, joined as always by Robert Martin. Also joined by my Chihuahua Sakura. Robert, I don't know if I told you she was hospitalized last week, but she's
Ah,
okay now. Now she's on the mend. Yeah, was
good.
without her for a couple days, but you can see she's
Oh,
doing just fine right now. So good to
yep.
see you again. Did you enjoy week one?
I had an amazing week one. I think that was like my best week one betting in maybe ever.
Wow.
Usually like week one has a bunch of pitfalls that you have to avoid. And to be fair, I bet a lot less this week one than I normally would do. I was just very careful. I just followed my reads. And I had a really good week one. This week one was also a little boring because I felt like every basically two out of every three FBS team played an FCS team, and those are unbettable. But again, we learned a lot this 2 weeks, I would say, in the case of Florida State. And yeah, it was a great week one. We finally got football back. Georgia Tech, Florida State doesn't count because it's in another continent. But we finally got football back, and I'm pretty excited about that. Yeah.
Yeah, good week one. As always, people saying, "Oh, there's no great week. This week sucks for schedules," and you know what? That's when you get like the good results, and we'll talk about a few of those coming up shortly here. As always, if this is your first time being with us, this is a glossary referring to several of these metrics throughout this episode. So do a screen grab, paste into your Sharpest College Football Podcast workbook, and refer to it throughout this and other episodes. And with that, we will get to who won week one. I'm going way off the grid here, and this might just be because I was just starved for football and I was delighted how this turned out. The True TV studio guys, we have here Tequila Spikes, Adam Lefko, Victor Cruz in a very stylish short sleeved suit jacket, and Champ Bailey. I don't know if you saw these guys. They did the Sacramento State San Jose State game. They were so good. It's almost like they had a little bit of the NBA on TNT show with Charles Barkley, Kenny Smith, and Shaq and EJ just sprinkled upon them. They looked like they've been working together for a long time. I don't know if you caught this, but I was pleasantly shocked, not even surprised how well this one went.
So I feel sad now because this is illegal in Canada, so we cannot see this.
Mm.
But it does sound really good though. And again, I feel like ESPN, I think with basically the exception of Dan Mullen, it's like this weird sterilized studio saying no more than 3 people on camera at any minute. It's weird and not particular. I just every time I'm like a halftime show or something on ESPN, I'm just like I don't care. Time to do some work. Go look at some stuff. Go look at some numbers somewhere. But yeah, I'm kind of sad now that maybe I'll hopefully get to see this at some point. Maybe I can find it online, but we'll see. It seems like they seem to be looking pretty good there. Yeah.
Yeah, and the other thing too was I think there was more need or more of a gap for them to fill in this one just because it was San Jose State first game under a new coach. Kenya Matalolo going totally against, I guess, a heel turn. If this is wrestling, going from the triple option to the spread and shred. New OC Danny Stutzman was wide receiver coach or the passing, I think he's a wide receiver coach at Texas State, wide receiver coach also at Washington State. So his first time calling plays, it was pretty interesting to watch too. So a lot of questions, and it was good to have people that could actually speak, answer them. And Lefko actually did a good job. Instead of making it just one of these hee-haw fests that a lot of these come to, he just said, "Hey, I'm a fan. I don't know this. What about this? What about that?" And these guys are well spoken. Very much looking forward to more from these guys. Now, unfortunately, you can't watch this, but I guess you need to be a little more resourceful and a little closer to the gray market, if you will.
Yes.
All right, your week one winner. I have no idea what this is about. Just
Yeah. No.
explain it to me.
It's just USC. Honestly, the huge week for them. You're wearing a Trojan shirt, I believe, right now,
I
right?
am.
Yeah, straight up win for them. This moment was actually a little questionable because I don't think they were trying to get in the end zone, but they just scored it. It doesn't matter, right? There's 9 seconds left. That's like the most Hail Mary of Hail Marys to go 75 yards in 10. So again, not the like it doesn't really matter that much, but no, what a huge win for them here though, right? Like the game was pretty much over at this point. They could have just taken a knee, kicked a field goal, but like man, huge win for them. Huge loss for LSU, and this is something we talked about. We were like, hey, we think the USC team is actually legit, and they were. Yeah, like it's great to see this USC team playing well, especially we have all of their futures. But yeah, honestly, like they're one of the teams that we were talking about that I think because of their win in this game showed media people are talking about them now. There's a couple other teams that we like that media people aren't talking about yet. Hopefully they will soon. But this is, I think, this is USC's big win here, and I think they're people were sleeping on them, and maybe not so much anymore.
And we'll get into more of that specific topic in a moment. But I can just tell you, as someone with a heavy emotional investment, but not monetary investment in this, seeing as that kicker shanked a 29-yarder just before the end of the first half, I wanted nothing to do with leaving it up to him to win this game. So
Fair.
I was delighted that this touchdown happened.
Mm-hmm.
All right, week one loser. The pantry is full on this one. Virginia Tech just didn't show up. I don't know what else to say. They just didn't show up, and they definitely were not prepared for anything that Diego Pavia and whatever fairy dust Jerry Kill brought as well. Whatever they were going to bring, like Virginia Tech was prepping for Vandy of 3 years ago or something. We love Pavia, but Jesus, he just tore him up. And the real crime is Virginia Tech took a lead very late in the ball game, and when you're a favorite, you're way behind. You let the underdog live and just hang around. And after you take that late lead back, that should be it. And the fact that Vandy was able to tie it very late, just an absolute collapse. Just a horrible job by Brett Pry. I'm not going to give up just because I think they literally just they took this game for granted. So I'm not. A lot of teams in week one that I basically am going to say I learned a lot from. This is just like they didn't show up. There was no concerns that there were no concerns coming into the season that this confirmed. This is just, man, the coach just stunk in this one.
Yeah, no, this was a bit unexpected. I didn't really touch this game. I did have Kyron Jones over 1.5 passing touchdowns, which when the Vanderbilt took the lead, I'm like, oh, this is good. Now they're gonna have to score. And then that cashed. But I did have some Virginia Tech futures, and I think those somewhat took a hit, but maybe not because again, and it this is I will talk. I read some of the athletic columns, some good, some not good. But one good point from Stuart Mandel's article was he said, "Oh, by this time, this if this was last year, I've been already writing off the ACC for their playoff berth, but they get one. They're given one for free. Basically, here you go. You get a ticket. Yeah, they will get a ACC team will go to the playoff, which is more than I could say they deserved this week. But there will be an ACC team in the playoff. I don't know which one it'll be, but there will be one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
two points on that. First of all, just to correct you, as we say here, it's noted Pac-10 or Big Ten expert Stu Mandel, just to be clear. And secondly, Virginia Tech's path to the playoff was not as an at-large, anyways. If anything, this might have been a little bit of a help, just to give them a slap in the face and say, "Hey, stupid, you can't do this again. You
yeah.
can't do this when you play Syracuse or whoever they play. That's going to be like in the lower middle class of the conference." But boy, they just stunk. Good no show by those guys.
And
Um,
one more thing I'll say on
oh,
that quickly.
please.
At least it was, yeah, and you alluded to it, a non-conference loss, right? As an SEC
Yeah.
team, this does not hurt their ability to win the ACC and get that playoff berth. That being said, can't say the same for Florida State. We'll get to them in a minute.
Yeah. Yes. All right. This one's easy. I don't even know if this is as much as this point on just people who aren't getting it about Clemson. This, like I said before, about Virginia Tech, I'm not taking too much away from that because it didn't confirm any preseason issues. Now, granted, it's not easy playing Georgia. I don't know if they're number one. They're certainly top five. I think the strength of their team is the offense. Their defense should be very good. But this is, you look at just the passing here and just no rushing game at all. This is really confirming every concern we had about Clemson. The scheme doesn't work. The quarterback's pretty freaking bad. The wide receivers don't get open. The O line is soft, and this is it. And I'm not here to bury Clemson. They have a good defense. The defense just can't carry that crappy offense when you're facing a team with a competent defense that can really just find ways just to trap them in a corner. This, as much as anything else, is just shame on the people who aren't getting it as much as Clemson themselves. I mean, Clemson's probably going to win, I'm just guessing, 7, 8 games. but geez, between them and some other ACC team, we'll just keep it at that. Big concerns.
Yeah, and this is the interesting thing, right? You said we're not here to bury Clemson. Maybe not this week. Maybe in a couple weeks. We'll see. But no, and this is a classic case of this because there's some stuff I want to talk about this game. So one of the things is people will notice, people who bet and constantly are checking lines like us, this game closed narrowly. When I bet this game earlier in the summer, Georgia was 13.5 point favorites. We were on Georgia there. This game closed 11.5. There was sharp money coming in on Clemson. And this
Mm,
goes to show you, there you go, right? This is the thing.
not sharp money.
No, exactly, right? But this is the thing. Just because sharp money goes in on something, they don't always know something. Sometimes they do. Sometimes there is some stuff out there that, like, oh, this guy got hurt and hasn't been disclosed yet. Sometimes that happens. But not
Yeah,
always. Not always. There's not all these guys aren't experts. They're not like omnipotent. They make mistakes too sometimes, and this is a classic
yep.
example of this. And I was watching this game mostly because it was one of the only competitive games early on, at least for the first half. They were all like, "Oh, the last time these two teams played, it was like a field goal. This game was decided by a field goal, and these two teams are always competitive." No, they're not. Like, Georgia is a lot better than Clemson, and people having huge reactions to this game. This is exactly what I thought this game was going to be. Georgia was like one
Yeah,
and two, one, number two ranked nationally, depending, whatever, doesn't really matter here. Clemson a lot lower than that. This was the modal outcome of this game. If you're taking away from this that, oh, Clemson's a lot worse than I thought, or Georgia's a lot better than I thought, your reaction to this should be like, yeah, okay, maybe Clemson's a bit worse than we thought, but people are acting this is a huge shocking thing, and Georgia's the number one. Okay, yeah, good, 100%. Georgia should be number one ranked right now. That's fine. But I'm not. This is not. Oh, Clemson could be bad guys, and this is the thing. We could be looking back and say, "Man, only being Clemson 34-3, okay, but not amazing, right?" I bet
well,
minus 21.5 on this. I bet alt spreads up, right? Okay, that you limited them like 6.3 yards per rush, not great. 278 yards passing, not great either, right? Now, to be fair, you kept it close for the first two quarters, but I think at a certain point, if you're that defense, you're like, what are we doing here? No, we're not getting help at all. We're not getting
mhm.
any help at all, and you could see it. You see it in the box score there, just 14 in the third, 14 in the fourth, right? Just a breaking down of that defense. Just like, we're done here. We're not getting anything. We're not winning this game. Why does it matter if we stop them from scoring here? And I think that's fundamentally what's going to be the issue for this Clemson team. So no, 100%. Clemson did not have a good week, and yeah, not looking great for them this year. I know people were, so for some reason they were the favorites to win the ACC. I don't get that at all. We also said I don't understand why that's true at all, and that seems to be correct at this point.
Yeah, yeah, and also the fact that they were ranked 14th. I just shame on, and I think I don't know. I don't know if I put this on Twitter, but I just said, look, plenty of reasons why pollsters deserve zero respect. The fact that Florida State was number 10 and these guys number 14, there was, I don't say there's no way. It was pretty clear this offense was not going to take a step forward. There was no reason to expect any kind of step forward other than just like word. Literally, the cases for this team being better on offense was just word salad that you could apply to literally any team, to Sam Houston, who might be better, to Michigan. I don't know. Literally, it was so generic. The case for their offense was not going to be better, and their defense is just it's good, but you need to be basically Iowa plus to have an offense this inept and a defense that's going to make you the number 14 team. So, as always, shame on the pollsters. They don't know anything. They're very slow and unable to process information, but they inform square bets. So, more opportunities for us. There shouldn't be an opportunity this blatant in such a big game. And this is not in horse racing. We call it red boarding when you call your shot after. We said last week this game isn't competitive. The 13 is just way too short. So
Yep.
I don't know if they're going to give away money. I'm not going to refuse. All right, I have one more loser here, and I don't even know who's the loser here. I think basically just any fan of the game of football lost this. Aiden Childs calling a shot, saying, "Hey, if you bet, take the over." Going into the Michigan State FAU game. And we got a real treat here. We got Cam Fancher with a negative 20 apex, just trailing by 1 point. Aiden Childs in his minus 19 apex. Um, this is I just want to mention, just for the heck of it, just Grayson James. and throw it over to you on this. I don't know what to say. This is just a masterpiece.
Yeah, so this was Friday, right? So
No, this
basically,
is Saturday.
no, this was Friday night, I think. This was Friday night.
Oh, you're right. You're right. Sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this
my
was
bad.
Friday night. Yeah, no, because I remember this because we in my for my day job, I'm work for a pollster. Obviously, we partnered with Florida Atlantic University, and now because I don't know why Bell decided finally to get the Big Ten Network, I can watch the Big Ten Network in Canada. I'm like, oh, you know what? Before supper, I'm like, you know what? I partnered with FAU. I have no horse in this game. Let's watch this game for a bit. This was physically painful to watch. I have never seen. It was horrible. The offensive play was horrific. No team had any idea what they were doing. I didn't expect Florida to be that competitive. I expected Florida Atlantic to be roughly that bad, but I didn't expect Michigan State to be competitive with them on that level, right? Like both quarterbacks having a negative apex, that was horrific. Neither team was good on offense. I guess they were good on defense, but probably not. They're maybe just both bad,
You
right?
didn't even
Now, to
know.
be
Yeah, you can't
fair,
tell.
yeah, it is with Aiden Childs. It is his first career start, so there's probably more room to grow there. With Cam
Hmm.
Fancher, there isn't room to grow there. This
No,
is what start 20 something.
he's a known quantity at this point.
Yeah,
I'll just
like
say that. Yeah.
I'll give Aiden Childs. I'm not giving him a pass. I'll give him a okay. You can do better, but Cam Fancher, man, wow! Like this is like what is at least his third season, right? You can't be putting up this bad of a number here. Just wow.
Do you ever just joke with your FAU colleagues and say, "I hope your polls are more accurate than Cam Fancher is"? Have you used that one
I'll,
yet?
I'll have to use that joke. I'll have to use that joke with them. Yeah.
I'm interested if they get that. All right, you're a loser.
Yeah, this is spoiler here. We put together this PowerPoint presentation beforehand. Obviously, this isn't just made up instantaneously. But basically, we make this, and now normally there isn't a game on Monday night, so this was a throw in here. We're recording this on Tuesday, but yeah, after whatever that was on Monday night, I think you have to give it to Florida State here. Wow. Now this is actually cool because I saw the spread and I'm like, Florida State did not look particularly good against Georgia Tech. I know people think Georgia Tech is good, but I don't think Florida State should be 17-point favorites against anyone. And I thought, okay, you know what? Maybe they'll squeak out a 7-point win or something. They weren't even competitive in this game. They weren't. I don't think they were leading in this game ever. I don't think. No, they were always losing this game. It was tied and then they were losing, right? Like the plus 17 was never in doubt. Look at this. Like the DJ, like DJ's, it's not horrible for 272 yards, but 50% completion against Boston College and
Hmm.
1.3 yards a carry against Boston College. And look Boston College 5.1. We named a stat about them. We named like how bad are you at running the ball
I
about
forgot. There's a
Boston College,
B.
and they just destroyed a team that was the ACC champion last year. And yeah, okay, obviously things change. This isn't obviously the same Boston College team that we named it after. That was a couple iterations ago. But this is shocking. And again, we talked about it a bit last year. We're like last week. Sorry, we're like, hey, Florida State could be in a bit of trouble here. They got to pick this up. They just didn't. They arguably were worse this week than they were against Georgia Tech. And they were at home versus in Dublin. If you're like, and this is the thing, right? We talked when Nick Saban retired, couple people were mentioned for that job, right? Mike Norvell being one of them. The Dan Lanning of Oregon being possibly mentioned as well. Kalen DeBoer eventually took the job, but Dan Lanning got an extension out of it. I think Mike Norvell was a potential option, but he said, nope, I'm staying in Florida State. Maybe you shouldn't have here, right? Kalen DeBoer got out at the best possible time, right? And they absolutely annihilated Western Kentucky there in Alabama. If you knew they did lose a lot of pieces, right? Maybe we did underestimate it. Maybe we always thought, oh, they'll have someone come up, but they lost Trey Benson. They lost Travis. They lost, oh, what's the name?
Jordan Travis.
Jordan Travis. They lost Jordan
Yeah.
Travis. They lost Keon Coleman. They lost a lot of pieces. And then they also lost a lot of pieces on defense, too. This is a
Hmm.
very different team. We just assumed there'd be guys to take their places, but there just isn't right now. And this is the result you're seeing. And Florida State at times looked shaky last year, right? After beating LSU week 1, they were really shaky against Boston College. I think they
Hmm.
were like 28-point favorites against them last year, had to struggle to win that game. There was a lot of times last season when Florida State was a little shaky, and now they went undefeated, and people were, okay, probably one of the best teams. But like maybe that kind of shaky Florida State team was more where they were, because they never were really like basically they won all their games, then they lost out on the college football playoff because of the injury to Jordan Travis. Maybe that shaky team was where they were. Maybe if they had gone to the college football playoff, they would have gotten blown out. We just saw them get blown against Georgia because of all the opt outs. Maybe this is that team. This is where that team was all year, and maybe now that all those pieces are gone, now we're just seeing a really worse Florida State. And I don't know where the bottom is on this team. I don't know. I'm assuming they're going to win some games this year, but is this a 6-6 team? Could this team beat Florida? I don't know. Florida versus Florida State could be a very competitive game right now.
but not compelling. Just
Compelling, no, competitive.
three things just to correct you, and I hate to correct you, but you need to refer to them as number 10 Florida State, please. Since
It's so
again,
this is the thing. This is the thing that's insane, right? Because there was no AP poll after week 0, so they
no.
were 0-1 to 10th ranked team that lost to unrated. But it doesn't matter. But it's just dumb that because they're not going to redo a poll for one game, right? So
Yeah, but they shouldn't have been there. That was just silly.
no,
Great call on the hey, this is the B and G Gab that did this to you guys. I totally forgot about that. That just goes so underappreciated. That is a great call by you. I don't know if you caught this too. DJU picked it up at the end, but he was so bad for a while that literally you never ever I've never seen this. I've never seen this. College football Twitter went from like just shredding the guy to saying, I feel bad for the kid. I can't watch this. It's hurtful. Did you notice this too? Where it was
I
he
did not.
stinks, he
No, I did
sucks, all
not.
these things. I feel bad for the guy.
Yeah, it was rough. It was, and the thing is, I actually bet because of the result from the first game, I was like, oh, you know what? DJU under 1.5 passing touchdowns plus 140. I'm gonna get on that. And then midway through the second quarter, I'm like, it's over. I've won. There's no way. I've got this. And it was like, there's no way. It's done. And I was just like, yeah, there's no way he's gonna get 2 passing touchdowns. And he didn't. He got one, but there wasn't really a second one there. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's crazy.
Uh, by the way, before we move on, just congratulations to Cam Davis for being the leading rusher with 11 yards. Well done, kid.
Yeah,
Um,
what it is, and again, a long of 8. So basically, he had one rush of 8 yards, and then 2 for 2 yards.
yeah. Jeez.
Just a
Brutal.
horrible stat line.
Yeah. All right. Victory laps. I don't want this misunderstood. USC did. They are winless in the Big Ten, so that's not what this is about. This is literally about the thesis that I laid out, and you and Isaiah both heartily, I guess, agreed with. Was look, the offense is always going to be fine under Lincoln Riley. Everybody saw this catch by Kyron Hudson. He was literally like he basically doesn't start. I think Phil Steele might have actually had him like on third on his depth chart for USC. It was just look, the offense is going to be fine. You've got a whole new defensive staff. Last year, I went on and on about how awesome Danton Lynn is, and I don't know if people thought I was just preemptively last year setting this up to be a homer, but look, the proof of concept is there. Doesn't mean it's going to happen, but basically the path that was laid out was absolutely real. Doesn't mean they're going to win. Doesn't mean they'll even go 7-2. But the path that we laid out, the scenario is absolutely possible. This is probably my smallest preseason bet. 22-1 was absolute value on this, and that defense looked completely different. I saw some crazy stat that this is nuts, and I should have clipped it on here. It was something like USC stopped receivers short of the third of the line of gain on third down five times in this game. They did so only 10 times all last season.
Hmm.
Nuts. Just night and day difference. Night and day difference. Stanton Lynn, we love you. Don't ever leave us. And of course, he'll probably go to an SEC program this time next year. So,
Here's the thing. I was really like last year when you saw USC on defense. There was a lot of, oh, okay, they got to the guy short of the first down line, but it doesn't matter. He gets over it anyway. There was a lot of time when, oh, there's 2 guys on him. Oh, they're taking him down. Now, it was a tad shaky at times, but massive but there. This is LSU, one of the better offensive teams in the country. So I am like, this is a really great offensive, like defensive performance, 100%. And this proves that they can compete. Again, you're shutting down an SEC offense and holding them to 20 points. That's amazing. Amazing job there by USC. And again, I'm seeing your ticket there. I also have a 22-1 USC Big Ten ticket as well. I'm assuming less, but no, it's great value, right? And this is the thing. This is what we do, right? We're like, hey, I think people are overlooking this angle, right? I think people are overlooking this, or maybe they could be looking at it a different way. That's what we do, and we find those things, and that's exactly what we found there. No, I'm excited to see. I'm excited to see how far USC can go this year. I think they could be very competitive in the Big Ten, and where will they be in a college football playoff? I don't know how. There's a lot of question marks about the Big Ten specifically, and some question marks about the SEC right now. I don't know where the ceiling for this team is quite yet. So I'm really excited to see where they could go.
Yeah, and I don't know if you know who Josh Pate is. I usually don't watch him, but he had just a quick reaction to this. He actually, I didn't really appreciate this till now. Just to put this out there, October 12th, the day before I head to Japan to see my in laws, amazing games, just working up from the bottom. LSU at Ole Miss is basically almost an afterthought on the undercard because you also have Penn State at USC, which now looms really nice after it seems like they might have an offense and a quarterback if James Franklin can get out of the way. You also have that's Ohio State at Oregon, and you also have Red River, OU Texas. What
Wow.
an awesome Saturday!
Yeah, this is the nice thing about with the now expanded Big Ten and the SEC. Like looking back, because I was going back through some of the data points from last season, just for updating the model, and it's oh yeah, this week had two good games and then that was it. But like now you're getting like 5, 6 good games a week, and that's a nice product of the new expanded uh, conferences. So it's really good to have that now. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, my other one, I got to give you thanks to this because I didn't even think about playing this until we actually talked about this game, Notre Dame at Texas A&M. I played the under 46, and only just when we were talking about it, I just thought, Jesus, you've got two really good defenses here. You've got Notre Dame with some problems out on offensive tackle, and you've got Colin Klein with his first time basically outside the Kansas State shell. I got the absolute worst of this number, but I was never concerned when the number went against me. Just for whatever reason, Jesus, the totals market just really, I don't know. Early in the season and late in the week, it just, I don't know if it's just people with different thoughts, different methodologies, or what. But Jesus, um, very proud of myself on this. I'm the under guy, so totally on brand for me. This one was never in doubt. Basically, once you saw basically the first two possessions.
Yeah, it was very clear it was going to go under. I didn't bet the totals, and I bet a few totals this week, and I really enjoyed that. I definitely want to do more totals betting this year, 100%. But because I remember I bet on Friday night, I bet Minnesota, UNC under 50, and that was like 5 minutes in. I'm like, all right, cool, I've won now.
Yeah.
So basically, but like my point on this is the fact that this is a low scoring game. Why are you giving Notre Dame, which is the team that I think is better, 3 points? Why are you giving them 3 points? They like in a close game, 3 points you get a push, right? So I was just like, I'll take Notre Dame in the points, and sure enough, that won. And yeah, but so same kind of theory of just like in a close game like that, when both teams are like there seemed to be a lot of faith in Texas A&M, and I actually came away from that game thinking maybe Texas A&M is a little better than I thought they were actually, because I thought Notre Dame was a lot better than Texas A&M, but they actually I know people were like, oh, they're not good, but maybe they actually that was a really good performance against a team that I think is probably one of the better teams in the country. So I came away pretty impressed with Texas A&M from that.
Let's see them away from home too. That
Sure.
when they're good, that home field's pretty tough. Um, all right, you have a victory lap here. I don't even know what this would be about.
No,
Explain
remember
this.
last week's on the podcast, I said straight up, UCLA minus 13 is like a giant red. This is a
Oh yeah, okay.
trap. Yeah. And just what like UCLA didn't lead until a minute and a half left in the game. Like
Yeah.
that, like they could have outright lost as a 13-point favorite. Just again, not even it was a close game, and Hawaii did a lot of dumb things. There was a couple of dumb interceptions. But again, it just shows you that hey, like when you see a line that looks like a trap, sometimes it can be a trap. And sure enough, Hawaii is not a pretty half decent 1-1 considering the fact that they're in the Mountain West. That's pretty good, right? UCLA, man, I don't know what they're doing. This did not look particularly good. They got really bailed out by Hawaii doing a lot of dumb things and putting on 16 points against a Mountain West team. That's not great if you're UCLA.
Yeah, in fairness, Hawaii, the strength of their team is a defense, although they are Mountain West and they're not awesome by any stretch. The other thing that is in it really worked for UCLA is I don't know how much you saw this game. I actually had this on when I was making dinner. I had this on the multi-view, so this is like the audio I had. Schrager actually got dinged. It looked like twice, and it looked like the second time he might not even play. I'm just wondering how different it might have been, like if he had just been healthy for the whole game too. So, congratulations on your monster 3-point win over Mountain West team UCLA.
Yeah.
Okay, what we missed, boy.
What happened
I,
here?
I just this is a I don't know, like I swung at one pitch 3 times and missed it, like that old Bugs Bunny thing.
Yeah.
I struck out on one pitch. Um, didn't expect Tim Beck just to pull down Jacksonville State's pants. I failed to appreciate the loss of Jacksonville State's DC. He's now the defensive coordinator at Oklahoma. Just missed it all the way around. If I can, I'm not going to blame anybody. I'm just going to point out that Phil Steele's depth chart was wrong. He had Noah Kim as a starter for Coastal, which was enough for me to think that this is just really going to go badly for Coastal when they had the thing that actually worked last year with was Ethan Vasco just running around like a crazy guy. And I don't know. So I missed everything on this one.
Yeah, I was watching this one because I think this was on Thursday. Just from the start, you're just like, "Oh, okay, it's not," and it was weird. It was just one of those games where nothing goes right for Jacksonville. Oh, they're doing stuff, and then oh, fumble, and oh, interception, and oh, and Coastal Carolina just breaks open a wide open receiver. It was not a great week for Jacksonville State. Now maybe maybe they can come back. I don't know, but I am not 100% ready to call Coastal Carolina back by far. I think this is more okay. Maybe Jacksonville State isn't that great this year. I want to reserve judgment. I want to see Coastal do this again and not get insanely lucky. But we'll see. We might. I could be wrong there, but I'm still reserving judgment on Coastal because they seem to get every bounce in that game.
Did they get 28 points worth of bounces? Just
Basically, there was a lot of stuff where it was just like, oh, this guy just missed a tackle. This guy was wide open. Fluky interception. Just everything. Everything was going wrong for Jacksonville State in that game.
I didn't watch it, and I'm glad I did not. All right, this again. First of all, Jeff Choate might actually be doing good at Nevada. I think that might be a miss since he was pretty good as a head coach at Montana State. The other thing I just completely whiffed here on was and I don't know how to say this nicely. I failed to appreciate how quickly an inept coach like Jared Parker could actually just completely disassemble everything that worked at Troy. Let's not forget this team was the two-time returning or reigning Sun Belt champs. Now they lost a lot from last season, but you would think there would be a lot of the bones still in place there. He was a horrible offensive coordinator at Notre Dame. I bring up his bio here because this is not really the most impressive resume you've ever seen. Basically, 3 years experience as a coordinator. West Virginia was awful these 2 years when he was the offensive coordinator there. Notre Dame was awful as well. Just learned just before the season kicked off why he got this job. He played at Kentucky. Do you know who else played at Kentucky? The last guy, John Summerall. Do you know who else played Kentucky? The guy before that, Neil Brown, for whom he coached at West Virginia and who really had a lot of success at Troy. So, being a Neil Brown protege and a Kentucky guy, the geniuses at Troy decided that they would let this guy ruin their program. And I think, remember, that was the Julius Caesar, where we were Julius Caesar and people that just needed to be basically put to death because they're so bad at their jobs. And we said that we were joking that Troy's athletic director might deserve one. I think right away, boy, you lost to such a horrible program in Nevada in your debut that had nothing in place. Horrible job. I whiffed on this all around. At least I said that Troy was just doing it, made a stupid hire here. I just didn't realize how quickly they could just make it fall apart.
Yeah, this could be, and again, this could be an early signal here. People are going to be like, oh, it's a fluke. We're like, no, we don't like Troy. And I don't know are they favorites this week? Let me see. I'll check if they're a favorite, if they're, what their spread is this week. But like, this is a team where you could it could take a couple of weeks for the books to catch up to this, or rather the public, because they're, again, two-time Sun Belt champions. Oh, Troy, they'll beat that team. Like they might even be favorites this week. Let me see. No, they're 18.5 point underdogs to
Yeah,
Memphis.
they're
So
at
maybe the
Memphis.
books have maybe the books have caught on a little bit, but again, give them a few more weeks, we'll see what that looks like. But they could be really bad.
Yeah. Okay. All right. What did you miss here? How awesome Abilene Christian is?
Yeah, I don't think they are. This was a middling FCS team, and they almost took out Texas Tech. That seems pretty crazy. So again, there's not a lot we missed. Again, obviously we're digging a little deep here because again, there was not a lot of FBS on FBS violence this week. There's a lot of FBS on FCS violence, so we're digging a little deep here. But what happened here? Something has gone horribly wrong here. This should not be this competitive. The quarterback for Abilene Christian should not be throwing for 506 yards
You're
against
not
an
going to pronounce
FBS
the name that awesome? Are you really just going to
Maverick.
skip over that?
All right, yeah,
Maverick McIver?
Maverick, awesome name. Probably shouldn't go 36 for 51 for 508 and 3 touchdowns against an FBS team.
Yeah.
Um, what happened here? This is insane. How did you let this happen? You're an FBS program and you're at home. Now, Abilene Christian is in Texas, probably not that far away, but still, though, what are you doing? You're an FBS program. You're supposed to be competitive. You're perennially a dark horse, a really dark horse, like fading in the background there. Like you almost lost to an FCS team. You only FCS lost. Like this was one of the closest FCS FBS games. What happened? I also isn't this supposed to be Tyler? No, Tyler Shuck is with someone else, right? Which school is Tyler Shuck with?
He's at Louisville now.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, Louisville. They seem to be. They were doing pretty well. Maybe they should have kept him instead of. Actually, it's not his fault. You can only score so many points. You only get so many touchdowns for five. If your quarterback goes 378 for 5 touchdowns, you're like, we won that game. No, you won by one. Like, and the only reason you won it by one is because you stopped the 2 point conversion, which would have cost you the game. Something has gone wrong here.
Yeah, clearly. Just to correct you on one thing, you said that Abilene Christian is probably not that far away. Everything is that far away from Lubbock. It's an island. Yeah, giving up 500 yards to an FCS team is just ridiculous. I am just about giving up on the Joey Maguire experiment here.
Yeah.
All right. Things that annoyed Robert.
Yeah, so I love that we've now just decided to make this a weekly segment. I love that we're just like, yeah, there's always something that annoyed Robert every week. That's funny. But anyway, here's what annoyed me this week. So this was on the Friday night game. This game went a bit long, think of a rain delay. This is a post-game interview with Mac Brown. And now I'm lightly paraphrasing this because for some reason I can't find a clip of this on literally anything. I looked YouTube, I looked Twitter. I can't find this clip. But this is other people are quoting this. It's lightly paraphrased, but he said something along the lines of in the post-game interview, in basically in the win against Minnesota, because Minnesota marched on the field, tried to kick the game-winning field goal, they missed it, and he said something along the lines of, "It's a shame one team had to win and one team had to lose. It was a great game between two great teams." Move to the next slide.
Yeah,
So
you're taking issue with that? Come on.
yeah, so this is I work a lot in politics, and obviously I see a lot of TV interviews with politicians, and usually there's an attempt to fact check kind of outrageous statements, but they just accepted the statement at face value. They didn't say, "Hey, neither of you two were ranked. I don't think either of your teams received a vote in the top AP top 25 poll." Didn't point any of that out. They're just like, "Oh, thank you, Mac Brown, for telling us that outrageous lie. You can go to your like." This was a horrible game. This was horrible. Both teams were bad. You can't say, "Oh, this two great teams." No, both of you are picked to finish at or near the bottom of your respective conferences. No one should be taking any victory laps here. You're not like, "Oh,
Mm.
great win." No, both you should be like, "That was horrible, guys. What were you doing? We should have destroyed them." Horrible. Like your offense was horrific. Obviously, yes, your quarterback got injured. Max Johnson out for the season. That was a rough injury. He wasn't particularly playing well. His backup didn't play particularly well either. So you can't say two great teams, a great game with two great teams. That's just pants on fire. That's just a lie. It's just not even. And I can't believe we just accept coaches saying outrageous statements like that. That's crazy.
The other thing, too, just to point out as well, do not sleep on the fact that Max Brosmer, first time starting for Minnesota, he stunk all game until basically he had a chance to win, and really like North Carolina just obliged him all the way down. This guy has done nothing the whole game. He stunk, and all of a sudden he's John Elway. at the end
Yeah.
of the AFC Championship game. Just do not sleep on that.
And then
Can I give a
they
small thing that annoyed me? I made a little bit reference to it. I'm going to give you some
okay.
names here. Oh, did you have more? Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, actually, I just want a point on that. It's like Minnesota then decided to just mess around and be like, yeah, we could go for a touchdown, but we're just gonna set up a. Again, I like what USC did. They're just like, screw it, score. Let's just score. Let's just score. Put 7 points on the board. They have 8 seconds to go down the field, and this would have been even less probable. LSU theoretically could do that. There's no way. Yeah, our backup quarterback is gonna go 80 yards in 10. No, just try to score. This is honestly just score. Just don't mess around. These are college kickers. This isn't an NFL team. You're not trotting out Justin Tucker there. Score the score. Score goal, score touchdown, win the game. That's it.
I will give Matt credit for part of this. I agree with the first part that it's a shame that one team had to win that one. That was so.
That's true. Yes.
I'm going to give you some names here. Here's my thing that annoyed me. Made a little bit of reference to. I'm going to give you some names here. Noah Kim, Malachi Nelson, Cade McConnell, AJ Duffy, Nate Yarnell, and Tony Muskett. Any idea what I'm referring to here? That is one, two, three, four, five, six. Nate Yarnell's at Pitt.
No, I don't know. Let's.
These are all quarterbacks that are listed as starting in the Phil Steele preseason guide, and none of them started in week one. That's it. We love Phil, but man, very different kind of picture painted, especially with some of those names and vast difference.
Mhm.
All right. Narduzzi Awards. Nice, cool graphic here. I put some work into this. Do not dumb here.
I love the Jimbo Fisher one there. That's great.
This was so great just because on Friday night when Colorado just basically had a chance to put the game away against North Dakota State, literally
It,
they just had to run the ball and that was it. Don't know if you could have taken a knee at that point, probably, but they threw on first down and I at that time I was like, what the heck? And so I went back here and I said, I wonder if anybody else noticed this on Twitter, like right in a row here, just three people on my Twitter right in a row was like, are you kidding, Colorado? What on earth are you doing here? It takes a lot. It takes an awful lot to do something so dumb at the end of a game where you would literally say, and this is not a joke now because he hired a coach, Dion should follow what Mario has done now to address this issue. That's a
yeah.
sentence I would have never imagined.
Yeah, I was watching this as well, and when I threw the pass, I was like, "What's he doing? That now the clock's gonna stop." And it was they could have lost this game. They straight up could have lost that game. That was a very competitive game with an FCS team again, right? And people, I think Colorado did. Oh no, Colorado didn't get any AP votes. I think they came, but people were like, "Oh, they're one of the best teams." No, they're not. And now for some reason, people are betting on them. I'm not sure why. They're still not good. This did not if you were high on Colorado, them beating an FCS team but not covering the spread against an FCS team should not fill you with confidence. You shouldn't be like, yes, that's the defense that's going to win them the. No, that was like again. This is yes, it's not to the same extent as Abilene Christian, and it looks similar to Oregon, and that one's concerning. We'll talk about that one later. But if you were like, oh, Colorado's good, and you were betting on the minus 11 and a half, one, you shouldn't have done that. And two, that defense had a lot of problems. They were throwing to a lot of wide open receivers there. There was a lot of wide open North Dakota State receivers, and that's concerning if you are a a player or a fan.
Yeah, agree. All right. Look, this is not a Billy Napier for being in a bad spot. That's not why you get an Narduzzi award. The thing is, when things go really tough and it seems like things are going to unravel for your squad, what does the coach always say? We need to stay together now. It's really critical that we come together as a team. And what would be the exact opposite of that? That would be exchanging words with, quote, the guy in the Albert the Alligator costume. Hey, words, you're a Florida guy. I just have to throw it to you. I don't know what to say here.
Yeah, it's not great. I again, and the thing is, I was gonna basically when you sent me the presentation, I was gonna give him an award as well, but you decided. Look, here's the thing. And obviously, yeah, getting into a fight with a guy in an alligator costume, not great. But there's a lot more to criticize him for this week. You had all off season. You knew Miami was coming. You knew Cam Ward was coming. Letting him score 41 points against you, not great. Defense is your weakness. You know you have to fix that. That is clearly not improved at all. Additionally, you know that your defense is not great, so you know you have to put on points. And that you also failed to do that as well. Graham Mertz, not particularly great. Now he did get a concussion. Okay, yeah, we're not gonna knives out for him quite yet, but give me a couple weeks. But again, like this is your job. You need to put points on the board. You're the offensive minded coach. You had to replace what's his name? You had to replace ETN on running back. You lost him to Georgia. You had to replace Ricky Pearsall. You lost him to the NFL. You had to replace these pieces. And apparently what was the plan? Just nothing. I guess we're just gonna not do any of that and get blown out by Miami. Look, whatever. You lost. A loss is a loss. If this was like an 8 point loss or a 7 point loss or a 10 point loss, sure, this was outside of the first quarter. This was never in question. It was just over. They put on a ton of points. Florida couldn't respond. Game over. That's it. You got blown out at home by an in-state rival. That is that's unacceptable. You can't have this, right? And if you were supposed to salvage this season, so yes, Florida has one of the toughest schedules in the country. Yep, 100%. Yep, they do. That's fine. But if you were to salvage this season, if you were to get to this point and be like, "Oh, we didn't make a bowl this season, but you know what? There was a lot of green shoots, a lot of positive things." You can't put in a season of that and be like, yeah, maybe I could. No, you're done. There was nothing positive from that at all. And if you're gonna try to save your job by not making, if you don't make a bowl game, that's not how you're gonna do it.
Nor is exchanging words with Albert the alligator. Um,
True. Yes. The real problem.
all right. What could you possibly have issue? Could you possibly have with this game, Robert?
Yeah. What the heck happened? What is this? Here's the thing. We said that New Mexico was going to be like a really fun team. They were going to be competitive in games. Not this competitive. Like, the this guy who I've never heard of before, Devin Dampier, I've heard of him now, looked like, I don't know, Caleb Williams out there. Like 3 passing touchdowns, 130 rushing yards, like an insane performance. And again, yes, Arizona, not a defensive juggernaut, but you were supposed to be competitive in the Big 12 this year, right? Yeah, you lost your head coach, but you kept your amazing quarterback. You have a lot of offensive weapons, but you couldn't in your first game of the season, you couldn't shut down the offense of New Mexico State, and not Mexico State, New Mexico, a team that a week ago was 3 score underdogs to an FCS team. You let them put up 39 points against you. What?
Uh,
Something is clearly wrong here.
yeah. First of all, Devin Dampier coming not soon, but next year to, let's say, an American Athletic Conference team or Big 12 conference team near
Oh,
you.
easily. He's not going to be
Um,
on New Mexico next year. But that this is a team that was 3 score dogs to an FCS team last week, and they were 30 point dogs in this game. And there was moments where, again, if not for those 2 interceptions, they would have won this game.
one other thing about this, I'm just going to say a name, and if you're a Pac-12, Pac-10 fan of old, I'm going to give you a name here: Dwayne Aquina. Dwayne Aquina is the defensive coordinator for Arizona. Dwayne Aquina was the offensive coordinator for Arizona in 1992 to 1995. That's enough for me to be out. Just that enough. Yeah. I don't get this higher, but this result does not surprise me based on that. He played quarterback for Washington. I just Nothing makes sense here. But Arizona possible over team throughout this season. I'll just say that.
Yeah,
Dwayne Aquina just. I'll put it this way. Maybe he's the actualization of what I thought Johnny Nansen was going to do as defensive coordinator here last year.
yeah,
Man, good start for Mr. Aquina. Our eyes will be on you, sir. All right. Noted for future reference, just other things that popped up during the week. I got these first two together. Oregon rushes for 107 yards, just a 2.9 per rush against Idaho, not Idaho State, pardon me, although both are FCS. And Boise State gives up 45 to Georgia Southern at Georgia Southern. I think maybe these teams just maybe had an eye on their game against each other this week. Boise was okay and then just gave up points in bunches. They just could not be obliging enough. The Oregon thing, I don't know. This is an angle I came up with in 2002 when Washington was coming off a pretty good season, 2001. They started the win with two blowout wins over really crappy teams, but they barely rushed for 100 yards in each game. And I came with a little early season rule of thumb. If you're struggling to run the ball against a really bad team, watch out when you play a legitimate team. And actually, that next week, they actually lost by a couple touchdowns to Jeff Tedford's Cal team. Now, the thing is, based on how Boise's defense just absolutely sucked in Statesboro, I don't know if we can say Boise's got a legitimate defense that can make things an issue for them. A couple of no-shows here to differing degrees, but man, I didn't even include this in the games to preview because I have no idea what to expect from either of these this week.
Yeah, this is a game I'm going to watch, pray. This is the thing. The Oregon one, I am not freaking out about for the simple reason that if you look at the stats, especially on the passing stats, it looks like it should have been a blowout. It just wasn't. Like if you said, "Oh, Dylan Gabriel threw for what was it, 400 yards or 300
Yeah,
something yards,"
almost
I'd have
400
been
yards.
like, "Yeah, 400 yards." I'd been like, "Oh, they won by 50. They won 50-0," but they didn't somehow. I'd have been like, "That's weird. Why he shouldn't have been throwing for 400 yards? He should have thrown for 300, 3 touchdowns, left the game early."
Yeah,
But it's just a weird stat line. So that's why I'm somewhat less concerned about Oregon for now. We're not pressing the panic button on that yet. Boise State, again, early looked like they were cruising. They were cruising to the win, and then Georgia Southern came back, right? So maybe they were both looking forward to this game. Idaho is not, Idaho State isn't the worst FCS team. They're not amazing, but they're definitely an upper tier one. Yeah, I'm not, again, no panic on that yet. I'm not ripping up the Oregon futures yet. Definitely not ripping up the Dylan Gabriel futures yet, quite yet either. But again, we'll have to see. Give that time. They have a lot of games to prove themselves, so we'll worry about that. But Boise State though, Mountain West, like UNLV looked really good in their shredding of Houston, and San Diego State didn't look horrible either. Boise might have some competition there.
yeah. Just the one thing, and again, it's only one game, and it doesn't confirm a preseason concern. Um, but Jesus, you should sleepwalk to 200 yards against an FCS team on the ground.
Yeah.
Especially, you're literally. What's the one thing about when we were talking the preseason? Not we, literally everybody's saying Oregon is the best built to see the Big Ten right now because they're so physical. Maybe they just took the day off. I don't know. We'll see. All right. Jalen Monroe, about as good as a debut as you can have under your new coach. 22 yards per pass attempt. That is officially good. Ran for almost 80 yards against Western Kentucky, who I think, I don't know. They got a check. Good for them. Anything on this one?
So this is again, this is one I'm actually gonna have a lot of interest in because I was lower on obviously the two schools, and I in my mind pair them together for obvious reasons. Alabama and Michigan, I kind of view. I'm always going to be constantly comparing them together to see how they do this year for obvious reasons from last year. But Alabama is the interesting one because what I said about Alabama in the preseason was I don't. Kalen DeBoer, good coach. Don't know if he's going to have the pieces to run his offense in year one. Think he's trying to make at 22 yards per pass attempt, trying to make Jalen Milroe a bit of Michael Penix Jr. there. Seems to be
Mm-hmm.
working so far though. So that's cool. If you could do that's pretty neat. So again, I'm excited about this. I'm actually a bit high on Alabama considering the fact that I'm low on not the rest of the SEC, but I think Alabama might have a shot at a playoff berth here. They're definitely
Mm-hmm.
not. There's definitely a shot here.
Yeah, yeah. It might be a quick refashioning of the program into a DeBoer mold right away. The next one may be more important just to me. Look, FIU is not very good, but Indiana, you did what you absolutely need to do in your first game. Limiting any team to 182 yards is nice, especially in your first game when you're going to screw up. You see a lot of game ones, just even decent defenses just have like mix ups when they're just getting the kinks out. Really well prepared. I'm encouraged by that. Anything on that? I think we're both bullish on Indiana coming into the
Yeah,
season.
and that's exactly what we want to see, right? You don't need to blow them out. This isn't Alabama or Ohio State versus FIU. You don't have to blow them out 15-0, but you stop them you show on defense that you're strong on defense. You beat them down on offense, win clearly and concisely. That's exactly what we're looking for in a rebuilding program like Indiana. So that's exactly what we want to see. We were bullish on their futures. Probably bowl game looks in focus. Outside of that, probably not. But let's see what Indiana can do. That's an exciting team that we're bullish on, and that's a nice thing to have in our back pocket there.
And to remind people, 2 years ago, last year their defense was good, but 2 years ago, when Signetti was at JMU. JMU had one of the top defenses in all of FBS, not just G5, not just the Sun Belt, literally of all of
Mm-hmm.
FBS. And they got totally overlooked because people that cover the sport nationally suck at their jobs, basically. South Carolina, hey, congratulations. You beat Old Dominion on a big 3.6 yards per play. My God, I think they stuck this behind the SEC Plus paywall. God bless you if you just subscribe to watch this game and this is what you got. I've always been ambivalent towards South Carolina, and they might actually just be like almost worth watching level of bad if this is any indication.
Yeah, this is gonna be. I think this is like we had expected South Carolina to be an okay but not good SEC team the last couple of years. We've risen to that level of expectation, but they've definitely lost some pieces. They obviously lost Spencer Rattler to the NFL. I think they lost a wide receiver or two. I think this is the bottom falling out year for South Carolina here. We'll have to see.
Yeah. Touched upon this a little bit, and I will definitely touch upon this a lot more in part two. Hey, Colorado, you gave up 12.6 yards per attempt to a guy named Cam Miller, who's an FCS quarterback. Maybe not an FCS quarterback for long if he plays like this, but my gosh, you made this guy look great. At home, too. Well
Yeah,
done.
that like this is the thing. This was really like I know we're obviously like it's a little hypocritical to be like, "Hey, Oregon barely beat Idaho. We're not that worried about it, but we are worried about Colorado almost losing to." The thing was Oregon was always really in control against Idaho, but Colorado was not always in control against North Dakota State. Actually, they were losing at some points. I think it was an interception that got them back in that game as well. But every time you watch North Dakota State on offense, it's oh look, he just threw it to a wide open receiver. He threw it to another wide open receiver. Like, why are there wide open receivers? This is an FCS team. Like, why are there should be no wide open receivers. And this isn't even it's not even he like had this is an NFL wide open where it's he like reached out. No, there's like a 10-yard radius around these guys where there's no one. This is a big problem.
Yeah. Yeah. To be continued in part two here. I would like to point out that the much maligned, even by me, Hayden Wolf, he outplayed Wisconsin quarterback Tyler Van Dyke with an apex of 82-61. And oh, by the way, Hayden Wolf did it against a Big Ten West, we'll just call him Big Ten West defense. Van Dyke went against a pretty bad MAC defense last year. What do we make of this? Is Van Dyke okay? I expected Western Michigan's defense to improve this year, but that's by MAC standards. That's not, oh my God, Western Michigan they'd go 500 in the Big Ten. This is alarming. No?
Yeah, this is concerning for Wisconsin. The thing I think Wisconsin right now is just identity crisis. What is this team? Is this a power running team? Because that's how you nailed in the touchdowns. You brought in Ches Malushi, brought in like you're running in the ball for touchdowns, but yet also you're trying to throw the ball. I don't know what they're trying to do, right? Are you a power running team? Are you trying to be that the same as Iowa, the same as other things, or are you trying to be air raid, right? I don't think they know. And while you were able to beat Western Michigan with the help of yet again a late interception,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you're going to be able to do that against your other Big Ten teams. I'm not sure exactly who they're playing, but I know they're playing for sure Iowa. Like there are certain teams that you're not going to be able to pull that out if you're playing against USC, if you're playing
They're
against
at
Ohio
USC
State.
this year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're at USC. You're not going to be able to do that if you're against USC. You're not going to be able to count on Miller Moss throwing a late interception and their defense completely given. You're not going to get that. So, yeah.
Yeah. Hey, Tony Elliott. Maybe he's finally getting it. He started Anthony Colandrea. Had to mention that. There might actually be some hope in Charlottesville.
Yeah, I think there might have been a mandate that like if you don't do better this year, you will be fired. And maybe he's yeah, okay, I'll just take this gamble a bit. And it seems to have worked out so far. So yeah.
Oh, I have to try now? Oh, okay. I'll try now. And lastly, our guy Butch Davis. We gave him the Julius Caesar. I came to bury him. They trailed Central Arkansas 3 seconds left, and I just saw this afternoon. The Sun Belt announced that they should have lost. The winning touchdown should not have counted. I didn't see any of this, but this just
Way to twist the knife there. Jaron Converse being like, yeah, I should have lost. It's also funny because when it was Notre Dame versus Texas A&M, it was an ACC officiating crew, which is so like they said, oh, the people making the call for this game are the ACC control room in wherever they are. And it's weird, and I think a conflict of interest that like other conferences are basically officiating different games, because although fine, whatever, most games it doesn't matter, but for some games that could actually really matter for a playoff berth there, right? This is again, US loves their decentralization of things, because if not, it's communism. But sometimes it's nice to have one thing that does everything, and having control from the top with completely unbiased, because sometimes you could get, this is a possibility in the future where, like, again, this is a game between Arkansas State and an FCS team, a game that Notre Dame won heavily, but if you're suddenly relying on a replay crew for a really crucial replay, and all of a sudden the outcome of that replay could very heavily influence if a team from your conference, you get an extra seed in the college football playoff based on the outcome of that game, that's a really questionable, and that could be a little
Yeah.
iffy. So I think that might be a problem in the future.
Yeah, I agree. And also, as someone who watched, who I didn't watch it, but as someone who's on Texas State this year, and they, from a box score standpoint, did not really impress against Lamar. As someone who saw Arkansas State as one of the threats in the Sun Belt West, I'm a lot less concerned today, because at the end of the day, Butch Davis is still coach at Arkansas State, everyone. So there's always that. And with that, that ends part one. As always, thank you, college football, for being such an awesome sport. This was just, it was great. The fine, famous words of the most underrated analyst in college football, Brock Heward. And with that, we thank you for watching. Catch us on part two, the preview of week two, in the next segment.